Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Syed Alam. He is the founder and CEO of AccentEdge. It's an IT services and consulting firm that provides solutions in cybersecurity, digital transformation, artificial intelligence, and cloud computing. They also serve healthcare, financial services, retail, and government. They help these sectors adopt secure, scalable solutions. And their mission is to drive positive change by leveraging advanced technologies for early cancer detection and democratic engagement. Syed has more than 30 years of proven leadership in technology and business. He founded AccentEdge to focus on healthcare innovation and empower communities worldwide. He led strategic initiatives as managing director at Alam Company and served as global head of digital transformation at AbbVie. Under his guidance, AccentEdge has contributed to global transformations, which we'll hear more about. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money in the employees' pockets and the company's too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Not everybody's eligible. Results vary for each company. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the founder and CEO of AccentEdge, Syed Alam. I appreciate you making the time to share your story today.
Good morning, Anthony. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Really looking forward to a good conversation.
Let's get into it then. So, Syed, your journey started in Pakistan decades ago. What was it like growing up there, and what opened the door to the USA for you?
I grew up in Pakistan, and it was great. I mean, I actually grew up in a military base there. My father worked for the government, he was an engineer, and I grew up in an area where we had access to good education, good facilities for healthcare as well as education. And growing up, one of the things that I always looked up to was the United States. And I always looked, through the TV, through books that I read about, this American system, this American way of living. And I really admired it. So it was always my goal to come to America to learn about what drives this. And so after my secondary education, I arrived at University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee in the fall of 1984 to begin that journey.
And so tell us about those early days coming to the States. Did you already speak English? Was the culture a big shock to you?
Yeah, I did speak English. As I said, I grew up in an area where we had access to good education. So English, obviously, I had, and I still have a little bit of that accent, but I did understand, and others understood me. So I had that skill already. But when I landed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and went to my dorms, that's when I started interacting with my my other students in the dorms, and we started becoming friends. And immediately what I realized was that I was in a place where people were extremely welcoming, they're extremely generous, and they're extremely excited to learn about me, asking simple questions like, do you have pizza in Pakistan? Do you have ice cream in Pakistan? And some place people may think that it was inappropriate in today's politically correct world, but I didn't feel that way. I felt they were just trying to be friendly, and they had legitimate questions that they wanted to ask me, and they would invite me to the Trivial Pursuit games, and would play ping pong, the things that I was good at. I will share with them, and the things they were good at, they would share with me. So I think it was just like really, I couldn't believe how seamless it was to make friends, to share ideas and moments immediately. It was such an open society that I was really, really not worried, and it just happened over time that I became more adept at American culture. So it was not a shock. I think it was more like assimilation of me.
Lots of curiosity on your part
Yeah,
to
yeah. I mean, it
explore and
was
understand what this whole country was about.
right, and the same way I think it felt that my people, people on my dorms that were in my house, in my house, on my floor, they were genuinely interested in me as I was in them. So I think it really was amazing, and I still have those friends. I still have those memories of those early days.
How did your interest in both business and technology begin to develop?
So I came here for those two reasons. Number one, to learn about technology, because obviously United States is the technological power without any peer, and also the business. So I wanted to learn those things, and I wanted to take those things back to Pakistan, which was recently in '84. It was only like, I don't know, 30, 40 years old, from 1947. An economy that was just trying to get a footing. So I wanted to take all those things back. I was interested in technology from the early age. I remember one time my father went to Germany on an official trip, and he brought back we used to have those spool tape recorders. I don't know if anybody else
The
remembers
reel
that,
to
but I
reel?
do, real. And I just open it up, and I want to see what's inside it. So I've always been interested in technology all my life. So obviously to come here and look at what's the cutting edge was a draw for me.
And so, what was coming out of college? What was the first job that you had?
So it's interesting. So I started work. So first year I didn't work. And then the first summer that um, I worked. I started working on campus as a foreign student who was in a visa. I only was allowed to work on campus up to 20 hours a week. So I had to look for jobs on campus. So in the summer, I worked in our dorms, and then in the fall, when the new jobs came out, there was a position for an assistant at the university's power plant to run their Apple computer to run reports. And I got that job. So I started working right away, and that's what I loved about it. That I was looking every time I would go through the union. Those days, we used to have card box, the index cards on boards, and you just look at what jobs are available. So every time I pass union, I look at a job, the job board. I found that, I applied it, and I got it. So I started working right starting the second year that I was
While
the
you were in
second
school?
while in school, and then the final year, um, um, you're allowed to do practical training in business. The law allows you to go and work at a company and outside, so you can have that practical training in a business. So in the last year, last semester, I then went to work for a major Wisconsin bank data center doing MIS work, which was my degree in MIS and finance. So I became a programmer there. So again, that is something that I didn't know was possible, because in Pakistan at that time that didn't happen. But here I got engaged.
You were
Whatever.
getting really great work experience while you were still finishing up your first degree.
Right. So, and then 3 months into my internship, my boss came up to me and said, "Hey, we would like to hire you full time if you when you graduate. So then one whatever day it was, I graduated. The next day I was working, and so I actually I interviewed for my internship at that organization, but after that I didn't interview with anybody for 5 years because I
What
just
was it you
switched for.
think they saw in you, Syed?
Um, I think the most important thing that I've learned is the relationship that you have with people. I think people like to work with people that add value and that they can count on. So I think that's what they saw that I would. I mean, even I don't know where you live. Maybe in your area you have blizzards.
We do.
But in
I'm in Columbus,
Wisconsin, there's a
Ohio.
lot of blizzards, and they saw in me that even if there was a blizzard, I found a way to get to work. They saw that, I took my work seriously and I put in an honest 8 hours of work. I think that really is what my personal experience has been, that people are not necessarily looking for geniuses. They're looking for people that they can count on. Um, and I
Just
think
being
people
dependable was a
just
huge
being
part of your
just being
what
just
you were
being
presenting.
being dependable and being part of a team, where you look at what the team is trying to accomplish. So I think that they enjoyed working with me, and so they wanted to keep me around. I think that's probably the simplest way to put it.
Makes a lot of sense. I want to spend quite a bit of our time talking about what you're doing today with AccentEdge, but before that, maybe handpick one of your career stops outside of AccentEdge, and why it was so formative for you in the way that you approach your work and business today.
Yeah. So, what really, as I was evolving myself by going through these experiences, of working at corporations, um, at one point I realized that working in a large corporation was limited for me. I think I wanted I wanted to do more things, and I wanted to do things where I had more control over what I worked on and I wanted to see how I impacted the world. So I had a great job at a major consulting company at that time, one of the top technology consulting companies at the time, and I was doing great, but I got an opportunity to do some groundbreaking work. So I just quit that job, and I went and I started my own business. So I think it was that defining moment and my core um, of what really I want to do is to, but first of all, work on things that I like to work on, and I want to see those things making an impact. And I think having a business allows me to do that.
Say more about this opportunity that came about to, I think your words were, do groundbreaking work.
So, so this is Milwaukee. So it's like 1992. I'm finishing up my MBA at Marquette, and I was paired with a person to do a project for a major manufacturing company in Milwaukee, where one of the problems that the manufacturers has is how much to produce for the next quarter, because if they produce too much, they have more costs of inventory, and if they produce less, they have
They miss out on sales.
lost sales. So so this is from a statistics class, and what we did with our project was we took that company as an example for our project, and we did a time series statistical model where they could predict what their sales would be based on their and there's a whole science that goes behind that in terms of, how do you apply that science to it. So we did that model, and we presented that at the senior management at that company. And the senior management told my partner, who was a manager there, said, "Who is this guy? Um, if he wants to do this in a real as a real project, we'll give him a project." So they gave me a $50,000 project. I said, sure. So for $50,000 project with one company, I quit my job and I started on that because I thought that was something that was more meaningful for me to go in an area um, where we could I could see that this is an area that's unexplored because even a major corporation was used to struggle with that.
Did you feel ready for this project? Were you at all kind of intimidated or like, I'm just wrapping up my MBA. I don't know if I've got what it takes to pull this off?
So I don't know if intimidated is the right word. I think in my days, I think I'm more like driven by learning and exploring and um, just going for it. So I think it was very exciting to me, and I was learning a lot about that. And I think the exposure that it was giving me to actually talk to real business people and have them give me feedback, I think that was just too tempting for me to when I compared with where I working for a major brewing company as part of this consulting team, where I had a very limited impact on
This
what
was a
was
chance
happening
for
there.
you to learn, to get feedback on your ideas and your processes and be able
Right,
to throw your line in the water.
right, and I think I have kind of a blind spot um, for fear. Like, I think because I think people said, "Hey, 99% of the people at the time," they said 99% of the people would not, s- you know, drop your job or quit your job and go on their own on just one project. So
And you say a blind spot for fear, meaning you don't feel fear?
I think I think I overlook that more so. I've learned in my experience. I've learned in my experience that I overlook fear in my decision making process more so than I think
So it's not that you don't
others.
feel it or experience it. It's you like, oh, there's the fear over here. I'm going to look in this direction instead.
Right, or this is the way to overcome that.
Mm.
I would say, okay, if I did this, like, um, it would be fine in the end because if I keep doing it, it would be fine. And I think I was very young at the time. I wasn't married. Um, I could start over rather easily.
Stakes
So
were
I
lower.
I valued those things more than my youth, my skills, and the fact that I had the ability to relatively easy start all over again. It weighed more than the security of the job that I already had and the next promotion and all that. Because
So
that wasn't that exciting.
was that first $50,000 job successful? Did it lead to more work with that client or referrals for other companies?
Right. So it was successful, but it didn't immediately lead lead to more work. Because again, there had to be processes to follow through on that, and so then I had to learn how to get more work,
Mhm.
right? So I thought that I didn't get immediate work, so we finished the project. It was great, and they loved it, but you know
Now you got to go
they
into business development mode, which you
right.
probably
So
didn't
it's
have
not. I mean,
experience with at the time.
a lot of people, and I think that's true in my experience. A lot of people think that if you do a good job, the follow-on work is automatic. It is not. I mean, the business that you're working for, even though they're doing a great job, it doesn't mean that they will immediately shower you with more work because they have their own budgets, they have their own priorities. They may bring you back, maybe after 3 months, maybe after 6 months, maybe after a year. But for a legitimate business, it has to have the capacity to generate more business. You can't just say that, oh, I'm going to skip. So it didn't happen. So then I had to figure out how to get more work. And that led me to the area of marketing. That led me to the area of sales, making cold calls, dialing for numbers, doing collateral myself. So yeah. So and then took me to other areas. So I did find work. That's what I'm saying. I did find work, and
Who taught you about business development and marketing?
So I relied a lot on what I had learned in business school, and a lot of people say that business school is not that useful, but I think it is. It gives you the framework, I think. So, and those things kind of worked, but I think that what you have to do is to complement with your network. So the people that I worked at the bank, the people that I worked at the consulting company, the people that I worked at my first client, they all know other people. So, so so you do that. You first define who you are, what you add as value, but then you leverage your network, and then you leverage your collateral, and then you have to overcome the fear of calling strangers. So you have to do everything, right? So your education, your experiences, your network, and your skills. There's no one thing. You have to kind of come up with your formula, how you're going to balance all of that. That results in work.
It strikes me that to go through sort of these different phases of growth, that you have to be sort of at your core curious, willing to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and open to a variety of different possibilities, because you're pushing yourself in directions that you hadn't gone before.
Right. Yeah. It is, and I think that is the to me that has been the most exciting part, because in America you can go and you will make it work. It will work because there's a system that does structured and transparent, and I think I found that having that opportunity to make things work, where there's a predictable system in terms of its structure, in terms of the capital markets, in terms of the legal system. All those things are transparent and structured, so you can depend on those things.
And you think this is a differentiator for the USA?
I do think that, because I do business with. I mean, today I do business in many countries outside the U.S. Many countries. And we know that. We know that why, or I know personally. I mean, I do business in Pakistan. I do a lot of business in Pakistan. And I can tell why it is that it doesn't become, it is not able to tap into that talent of 250 million people, these inefficiencies and these not having a transparent structured system, how that chips away for that. So it actually makes me value the United States systems more, because you can see there's an incredible idea, there's an incredible person, but there's no capital markets because there's no transparency, there's no liquidity. People are extremely smart, but they can't get
they don't have access to the funds to
they don't have
put
access
their
to
ideas
funds.
into action.
They don't have access to funds. They don't have access to, I mean, as simple as mailing system, U.S. mail. I mean, a lot of places on this world, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it still matters, but before it didn't. Having a predictable, you know, mail system like Six Sigma plus accuracy of a mail system is important because you know that at least what you're mailing, 10,000 pieces, almost all of them are going to hit at almost a predictable time frame. So you can plan against that. So I can see that that how those things, you know, cause uh, issues with certain locations.
So the transparency, the capital markets, the legal structure, that's all made the USA a great place for you to start AccentEdge and grow it from. You're now doing business in multiple countries around the world.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward a bit and talk about the state of the company today. What are the services that you actually? Let me rewind for a second because I understand that there was a bit of a transition that took place through the COVID years. So why don't you kind of fast forward us to maybe 2018, 2019, what the state of the company was, and then let's transition into that sort of COVID story.
Right. So, right before I did AccentEdge, I was with AbbVie, which is, I think it's like now a $60 billion pharmaceutical company, and I was leading their digital transformation efforts at that time. It was just starting. It was 2014, 15, 16, 17. I was there. Um, and I just thought that again, I had that feeling, that limiting feeling of, you know, what am I doing? Yeah, I'm delivering projects, I'm saving the company money, and I'm, you know, helping the company succeed. But what does that really mean from me? Because I was so removed to the actual impact. So I started this Sandage, and to really focus on digital transformation of large corporations, what I had learned at FV and other large companies that I worked before. And again, um, I just laughed and I relied on my network. I had friends and colleagues that I'd worked with at major airlines, major financial institutions, major chemical companies. Chicago is a large economy. So if you're working in Chicago, you can actually develop a good network. So we started working with them and we're extremely profitable. This is like mid 2018. And I was at my health club, a gym, and morning in May, right before the March Madness. It was March, and I was watching TV, and they said that WHO has declared COVID a global pandemic, and everything shut down. And we were really having a good time. We're doing a lot of AI work. We're doing a lot of digital transformation work, and our airline client said, "Look, it's not you. We're shut down. You know, we're not flying planes. We don't want projects. We want to survive." Our bank's client said, "We are not looking to give out more loans. We're trying to herd the cattle to see if we're going to survive this because everything is shut down." And I had all this staff, you know, of really, really smart people that were doing great job, you know, and they were enjoying it and they had meaningful work. And so again, so I had to pivot, or we had to pivot, and we said, well, who is spending money right now? And there were two areas where there was a lot of spending: healthcare and government.
Mhm.
So we said, okay, in all commercial enterprises are not spending, so it's going to be a very tough sell. Let's go sell to the government and let's sell to healthcare. So we redeployed our AI experts that are working on commercial projects for commercial clients on AI, and we put them on healthcare for and then we went after the government. And then what we ended up doing was we immediately um, became a leader in early cancer detection through our people that had experience in that in the healthcare sector, and then we ended up getting contract. One of them was with the government. One of them was with the United States Senate, because what happened was senators have to be with their constituents, and with the COVID, they couldn't be. And because they couldn't do town halls, they couldn't go not shake hands. So how do you do that? So we then came to the United States Senate, and we put in a service where we could allow them to do everything virtually. And we put up an office at the Willard Center in downtown Washington D.C., where they could record, videos. They could. It's a mile from the U.S. Capitol, so they could switch and record something real quick. They could do town halls. They could do all those things to really to engage with their constituents, and that just grew into one of the major business areas that we focus on is democratic engagement. But when we powered that engagement through technology, we also saw opportunity to do it better than in person, right? Because so it's better engagement and how to fight misinformation. What are some of the tactics where so that went into that. Our early cancer detection algorithm that we had developed, we actually went to Tokyo and we competed with over 1,200 companies on early cancer detection algorithms, and we actually won that in Tokyo for this major Asian competition that they have. So going into the pandemic, we had one business, and coming out of the pandemic, we had three businesses.
Okay, so again, I want to peel back the layers of the onion here a bit, because we're talking about it, and we sort of condensed the story into just a couple of minutes. But what you're talking about is a pretty drastic change in the direction of the business. You guys, going into COVID, you had a lot of good work with banks and airlines, right? And then airlines aren't flying. They're like, we're in survival mode. Banks are like, we're in survival mode. So the spending stops there. And the whole world is panicking, right? I mean, there's some industries where spending is way up. There are other industries where the spending just stopped. And I think maybe this is a bit of where, like, you just kind of overlook the fear part, because a lot of people just, they sort of like were shaking on their boots. They're stuck. They don't know what to do. You guys made, not one, but, multiple big pivots into industries that you weren't really working in before. How did that actually transpire? How did you actually get contracts with the government? How did you actually get into cancer detection when that's not something you were doing previously?
So let's take one at a time. And if I'm going too long, please stop me. So the scenario is this. So, there's a global pandemic, and within overnight, we lose 80% of our business. Other than what we have long-term contracts, all the project work was stopped. So we lost 80% of our business. So when you say, okay, I will go to the government route first. So we say, how to do that? So one of the things about government is, if the government is spending more than $25,000, they have to let you know. So commercial, they don't have to tell you if they work or not, but the government does. And there's a website called sam.gov that lists every single opportunity every day that the government is purchasing for. So we just went to the sam.gov, created an account, register, and you have to register with that, and they have to vet you, and you have to, with government, there's a lot of paperwork, but we did that. Again, this doesn't happen without work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of 16, 18-hour days doing in front of a computer, making sure, and creating, like, with government contracts, there's a lot of paperwork. So, but it's there. There's work. So it's a search engine. So you go and you search what products you can do, what talent you have, and then you bid. and the thing with the government is, again, it's transparent. So that's how we went there. So you say, I'm going to go for government. So you find out how you get work with the government. Then you go, on the healthcare. So healthcare, I did have experience. We did have experience because I did work with pharmaceutical companies, and there was cancer research there. And I was responsible for providing the technology that was needed for those particular skills. So what we do is then again, we leverage our network, and we say, hey, and then we have people who had experience in that. So we um, we then just completely focused on that, redeployed the people who are working on other sectors to the pharmaceutical sector, but we were already working there. So the people who were already experts in that mentored the new people who were there. So, and that's what I said before when we first started, that one of the things that we make sure in our company is that we hire people who want to work and who want to work with other people. So then those people mentored them, and obviously everybody was worried that what's going to happen if they didn't, retain this job. So everybody kind of pulled together, and then we leveraged a network at major universities. And after we won the award, uh, there's incubators in Chicago. There's one called Matter, which is actually one of the most recognized healthcare incubator in the world. And we connected with them. We set up an office there so we can then leverage healthcare related ecosystem. So again, uh, it, it's not in a vacuum. So we would find how to enter that market and go after that, and then learn and show up.
So you're somebody, Syed, that you want to work, you're adaptable, you want people to work for you that also want to work, and they're adaptable. When you're going through sort of that hiring and that screening process, how do you filter for that? How do you figure out that person is going to fit in our culture here?
I think a lot of that you can tell uh, by how they answer questions, the words they use, their temperament. We are all human. So if you are even on a screen, you can tell what is this person's essence, right? I mean, are they friendly? Are they, uh, are they, you know, tough? Or, what is it that they like to do, and what kind of person they are? Um, so I mean, we look for people who would be open to working with others and working in a positive way as a team member. And typically you can ask those questions to people, and the way they answer it, you can
Like,
typically
what's a
tell.
question that you would ask?
One of the questions that I like to ask is, explain to me how you work with your team. What is your role? Let's say you are a team member. How would you contribute to that team success? Where you get your information, and how do you make sure that that you're going to be a good member of the team? Just ask them plain. How do you do that? Put that question to them, and the way they would answer that would give you cues to what, how they view the team. How do you working within the team?
I want to go back to a couple of the things you talked about as you came out of the pandemic with 3 businesses. You went in with 1, you came out with 3. And 2 things that really caught my attention is, you figured out how to do some of the things within government better through the technology. And one in particular was how to fight misinformation. Because it seems like this is something that is still a giant problem, maybe even bigger than it was going into COVID. What are some things that you guys have figured out? What kind of tools have you built to help with this?
So we actually built a tool and where we can tell what is a particular legislators, how far their voice is going, what is their rating. We rate them. We say how effective they are, because um, all the legislators at the federal and state level, they all have Twitters, Facebook, Instagram, all those accounts, and they are pushing information through that, and a lot of that is coming back to their website. People are getting that information, but what people don't realize is on any particular topic, there are public interest groups that are also intercepting that information, and they're also pushing that from their particular information out. And they're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of money that's spent on keywords that are related to the topics that are in front of the government. So these public interest groups, as well as commercial interest groups, kind of are also doing the same thing. And what we do is we look at the positions of a legislator and what they're speaking about, and then compare that with all the other information that's being pushed from interest groups. And we have developed a way to determine how we can tell and advise them that their voices are being drowned out, or they're breaking through. And if they're being drowned out, we give them strategies to break through that, so their position gets out. And again, we have a two-party system, so you not only look at the and the interest groups but you also look at the two spectrums of our political system and see which one. Now we're neutral, so we don't, we support our clients, so we really don't have an interest on which particular position it is from either party. But we can tell them, and we develop these systems to do that. We also help them with how to do to their websites better, to how to kind of feed the traffic to them, and so so that is not
You
possible.
were providing them with a wide array of services,
Right.
yeah.
And that they couldn't do that
Yeah.
in person. You can't do that. So because everything if you're online, everything is being traced and matched and processed through very, very large scale systems.
So let's go to the other new business that you created coming out of the pandemic in healthcare and cancer detection.
Mm-hmm.
Not a person alive whose life hasn't been touched either directly or indirectly by cancer. Can you give us, so I think this is going to capture a lot of people's attention. Can you give us one specific example of something that your technology has been able to help with in earlier detection of cancer?
So what we developed, that one thing that that won the award in Tokyo in 2021 was what's called digital biomarkers. So your body has biomarkers that you can detect from like imaging, like X-rays, MRI, CT scans, all that. Your body will tell. And it will tell because if you have 100 years or 50 years of images, and you know that you have longitudinal information on those, these people had this type of signature on their X-ray, and they ended up developing fatal cancer. And if this signature was there, it was not fatal, it was benign. So this AI that we have started with doing the digital imaging, and we would have like 40, 50 years. So we work with major universities, most of them, where we have access to that information, as well as the medical centers that are associated with these universities. So we entered partnerships with them and say, if you give us, because we just won this award, so now we could go and we can pitch, hey, we have this algorithm, we can help you. So we established those partnerships.
And so what you needed from your partners was that data, the imaging data, so that you could feed it into the AI, teach and train the AI so that it gets better at detecting.
Right, and anonymized. and also not only anonymized, but also diverse, because a Caucasian person, African American person, an Asian American person, an African person, a South Asian person, they all react differently. Their bodies are not the same. So if you just do one race or one dominant group, it will be biased. So in AI, one of the big challenges is having unbiased, taking the bias out, because some um, segments of the society have had better healthcare, so they have better data historically compared to others. So how to deflate that advantage that they have? So yeah, but hospitals have those, right? Or lately, there's been synthetic data also, that can be
Synthetic
developed.
data.
Yeah, it can be generated. So the latest AI can look at like 50 years of data, and then it can generate, based on what it learns, it can actually generate synthetic data.
And it does that for the purpose of training itself
Learning.
even more.
Yes, yes, yes.
But
So,
that's so unusual. It's evaluating this data that it just created.
right. Well, it will feed into an algorithm.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is that there's synthetic data that can be generated. Well, just like there's synthetic organs that can be generated. It's the same thing. So we started with imaging, but then we integrated with what's called multiomics, your biology of your body, because even before you have symptoms, cancer actually starts shedding signatures into your bloodstream and into your
Right.
biology. So now we have a model that does both radiomics, which is images, and multiomics, and integrates that. And then up to 5 years in advance,
For
we
what
can
kinds of cancer?
we have about 50 that we can actually work on. We have trained them, and we can predict from them.
So let's say I'm somebody, my family history, there's a history of breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, bladder, whatever it is. And I'm like, hey, I feel good right now, but maybe I'm at that age where, things traditionally in my family history have started to unravel for some folks. Is there a clinic somewhere in the world I can go and have a blood draw or a scan and it says, oh, you've got those early shedding markers for X, Y, and Z?
So the best place is to go to your doctor. So that's where you capture it. So I think that
But hang on, Syed, because a lot of doctors, how do I want to say this? Not everybody is at the forefront of the technology that you guys are trailblazing with, right? So there's doctors in, big towns, small towns that maybe have never heard of the kinds of scans that are available. Am I right or wrong on that?
No, so
No? Okay.
that is the beauty of it, because our algorithm integrates with the existing systems. The doctor has the EMR, electronic medical records. Our algorithms integrate with the systems that already exist. So what it happens is, let's say they do a blood draw, it just calls our system, and our systems respond. You don't have to buy $1 million product.
So I want to see
API.
if my body is shedding. It's creating those early markers for pancreatic cancer, which is
Right,
something that, traditionally when it shows up, it's too late, right? When the
right.
symptoms are there, your time is limited. So I can go to my doctor today, say, hey, draw my blood, and what happens? How is that getting scanned for those markers?
So they would actually send it to a lab or something. And if the lab, we would have interface to our system in the lab. So as part of that, they would just perform one more task that calls our system. It's called what's application programming interface, or API.
Yeah.
It will just call that. It will feed what it found on your blood, and it will shoot back the result.
So what's the request I'm giving to my doctor? I want to be scanned for pancreatic cancer. Let's make it pancreatic cancer.
I think the ideal way would be to just say without specifying what you're looking for, because you would know that pancreas. So we test for pancreatic cancer. So it would be like this is the slate of cancers that it will detect, because every test detects a certain, you know, for anything, not just for cancer. There's screening systems that are for certain,
But
symptoms
there's
or.
a name of the product or a name of the screening or the scanning or the service that it has to go through so that it gets access to your algorithms.
So our product, our product is the actual algorithm is called AccentEdge Biomarker Cancer Detection
Okay.
(ABCD), and then we actually the latest product that we have is called Doctari. What that is actually based on generative AI, so you can actually have a conversation. So we're taking the latest
That's
iteration of
fascinating.
that is where you can actually have a conversation with that. So that generative AI, so that we did that pivot because the world just changed after Chat GPT
Mm,
came out. So generative AI, so we are putting on top of our science and technology this large language model for generative AI, where you can have a conversation with that at this point. I mean, it's coming, it's not there yet, but
yeah.
that's our latest. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
Really uh, mind blowing, cutting edge stuff. Let's take a little bit of a detour, though, Syed. And I'd be curious because your company is very successful. Obviously, we talked about the hardships you guys went through, in COVID. Um, Actually, let's come back to that because it strikes me as that giant hardship there was actually a chance for you guys to reinvent yourselves. And
Right.
as painful as that transition was, is there a part of you that has some gratitude looking back on that as like, wow, look at the company we became because of that we might not have otherwise?
Yeah, I don't have the gratitude for the COVID because a lot of people died for it. So I mean, obviously that was heartbreaking what we lost. But I think where it took us as a business, and this is where we are today. So one of the epiphanies that I it also improved our profit margins,
Oh, wow.
because one of the epiphanies that I had was that if you solve the biggest needs of the humanity, actually, it's the biggest opportunity to make money. People don't
Mm,
realize that, because by definition, if like cancer, who would want a discount on cancer treatment, right? If you have a loved one and you're going to pay what they ask for because you're trying to save somebody from cancer, who would ask for a discount for protecting their hospital from cybersecurity attacks? Who would do that? Who would? So if you solve humanity's toughest challenges, that is also the biggest opportunity to make a lot of money.
mm.
So we realized that coming out of that. So I have gratitude for that, that it actually changed my mindset, where a lot of people are saying, niche things or small things. And if I can find this and I can cut costs to a certain bare bone, then I can do this. I can increase my. But how about thinking big? How about thinking about? So that's why we focused on, and now we focus on solving big problems, because not because, well, there are problems that need to be solved, but also there is a lot of money to be made from those if you focus on that, if you solve that problems. And that one of the other areas that we're looking at right now is climate change. That is a big problem. That's an existential threat. So if we can come up with solutions for addressing that, I think that also is an opportunity to be a successful business.
And so this is an area that you're in the process of growing into.
Right. And one of the things that I like to do is this kind of funny story. One of the things that I like to do is to actually experience it myself, like see what it is like. So I recently took a trip from Chicago to Yellowstone National Park in an EV, which is 1,400 miles one way. And I say, okay, what is the experience? of an EV? Can I actually, because biggest fear that people have that I'm going to run out of batteries, right?
Did it happen to
So
you?
no. So what is shocking to me is that there's so much EV infrastructure already in place. And then the cars have the technology, they will route you to the exact same station, and you can actually charge an EV now within 45 minutes, which is not too bad if you are next to like Wall Drug in South Dakota. I don't know if you know that. There's like, because they put like Wall Drug, they put like EVs next to that, so you can go and you can charge a car and go and get the nickel coffee, because they still have a
Is
place where
that
you
they
can buy
still
a
have
coffee
that,
for.
huh?
They still have that. So it was my first time there. So you go there, you go there. They put them next to Walmart's, Targets, and I was at Yellowstone. All the national parks have free charging, so you actually don't even have to pay.
Wow.
Mount Rushmore doesn't have has free charging. So, but the issue is cost, because if you have high speed charging, uh, you have to pay a lot more. So it is actually more expensive than gasoline, almost
Mm.
twice as
Oh,
expensive.
wow.
Uh, but so I think, but those costs are going to come down. But I think, but that's an existential threat. We believe that that's an area.
How can you
Uh,
help?
so I think we need to have solutions for that. We need to find ways to reduce emissions, and we need to also find ways to generate electricity or power, for that matter, that doesn't um, that is free, neutral, carbon neutral. I mean, there's so many ways. We can build buildings that don't waste energy. We can do so many things, and applying that technologies like IoT or other technologies to see how we can kind of bring all that down. So we're just beginning to look at, but that's another area that we are looking at right now as a big challenge that we want to get involved in.
Syed, I think I want to wrap up our interview with what tends to be my favorite question. But before I do that, I want to give you a chance to tell people how to either get in touch with you directly or AccentEdge, or to follow your story, or that of the companies. What's the best way?
So the best way, I think, would be to just send me an invite on LinkedIn. I'm Syed Alam. I'm founder and CEO of AccentEdge. They can also visit our website, accentedge.com, which has our phone number on it, and they can definitely call and ask for me. I'll be more than happy to personally talk to any and all, as long as I'm available. Uh,
It's
yeah,
generous offer. Well,
it's
and
not
we'll
it's not
include
hard to.
links to all that
Yeah.
in our show notes here. But
Yes.
last question for you, Syed. What's a serious challenge that you've had to overcome, personal or professional? How'd you get through it? What did you learn?
Uh, the personal challenge, I think, was for me was to be alone, because I came from a family, I came from a culture that was surrounded by friends and family, and I came alone. And I think I had to overcome that. I had to see how to survive and how to succeed when you don't have a support system around you. And um, I feel lucky that I ended up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in America, where it was an open society. But that was the challenge, to rebuild my whole life from a ground up. I think, and that what I learned from that was that it's all about people. You just have to introduce yourself. Say, "Hey, my name is Sayed." You know, 99% of the people will be open to talking to you. So just show up. I think just ask, just do. It's very simple things that probably your mother told you. So don't forget those lessons that you were told as a child, and I think everything takes care of itself after that.
I love that message. Safe human connection, I think, is some of the best medicine that we have
Yep.
in the world.
It's all about
Uh,
people.
yeah. And you coming here, you're, young adult at the time, hadn't lived on your own before. You came from an environment where, friends and family were close. And now you had to meet a whole bunch of new people. You weren't coming here with that support system. You
Yeah.
you had to stand on your own, and you had to kind of break through that barrier, that fear of, and I got to go and introduce myself, and I've got to find a new group to interact with. And it sounds like, man, you couldn't have landed in a better place. The folks that you found there in Milwaukee,
Yes.
they accepted you arms wide open, right?
Yeah. America. That's America for you.
Oh, I love it. Syed Alam from AccentEdge, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it as well.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.